President Robert Wagner. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you for coming.
Doing well. You bet. It's a pleasure to be here.
Higher education is one of those things that I think is coming to this great influx in the United States. And, Idaho, to your credit, you're part of it. We rank number 11 per U.S. News reports for higher education in the entire country. Idaho's always taken it on the chin for education. It's like, dig in, man. We're not actually that bad. But there is a large reckoning with the attendance of, let's say, liberal arts that some people don't feel is really relevant. And there's an idea that what is the value proposition for the average consumer, or average taxpayer rather, with publicly funded universities? What's the value proposition for them in higher education and relevance in general with higher education, trying to articulate it to young people or, people my age that want to go back to school? Why do that? Right. And I, in my life, am a rather scrappy person, right? Like I figure out how to make my way through the world. And I use my degree very specifically in rhetoric to do that because I'm very good at communicating with people. But ISU, the school you're president over, has really clear value propositions for communities that fund them through taxes and for young people. These are not things where it's like, okay, just, learn how to ride on the side. It's like, do you want to be a nurse? Yeah. Do you want to engage in the medical practice? Like, are we going to go back to just letting anybody who's 18 wander outside and hang around a medical office and give them a certification? No, we're not. We're going to keep our standards high. And ISU has a place to play in that. I know that's a large buildup, but talk to me about what ISU's relationship is with the medical offerings of the state.
Sure. Well, first, I want to go back to something that you said right at the beginning, and that's the state of Idaho, the institutions that we have. We have fantastic institutions in this state. From a public perspective, our four-year degree granting institutions, our 4 community colleges, all 8 of them are doing an incredible job. They are serving the state very, very well. And we are one of the most affordable states in the nation for certificates, for 2 years, for 4 years, for 4-year degrees, even for professional master's degrees. And so I just want to start out by really applauding the state. So I've been at Idaho State now for about 21 months. The state of Idaho has done a fantastic job. You can tell that they have invested in education in the state, and it shows. We have an educated populace here. We have a diversifying workforce. We have an economy that's humming. All of that higher education contributes to. And so I believe right now you actually are seeing the fruits of decades of investment by this state in public higher education institutions. Now, that's not to say that we don't have challenges. A lot of those challenges, of course, are coming from growth, just significant population growth. And really the challenge for the public higher eds to be able to keep up with that growth, the population size, as well as the changing demographic. But boy, what this state has done is just really, really impressive. And I'm so pleased to have come to Idaho State University to be able to see what this institution has done for 124. We're going to celebrate 125 years in 2026. What this institution has done. We have been doing specific mandates in higher education for decades now. For example, when we had the Albion School merge with us, we took on teacher education. When INL, the Idaho National Laboratories, came decades and decades ago, Idaho State University, just by way of proximity, took on that expertise for energy production and nuclear. We've had our College of Pharmacy for over 100 years. And so we've had health science programs meeting that statewide mandate for decades and decades and decades. And I want to emphasize those are decades and decades and decades of state investment, where legislators have said it makes sense for us to invest in this institution to be able to meet the health care and the health sciences needs that we have in our state. So Idaho State University, they took that on as a college. They took it on back when they were an institute. They take it on now that they're a public research university. And granted, the population growth again has occurred at such a fast pace. It is a challenge for any one institution to really continue to meet the needs. So we have relied upon the other public institutions in the state to jump into health science areas like nursing programs, where we know the need is so extreme and so great, one institution can't do it all. But to be able to have one institution who started, who has that core mission, the core ideals, who's worked with the national accrediting bodies to make sure that we have the best available education curriculum and programs in the state, just makes a lot of sense. And so, we're excited to partner with our sister institutions, but we've maintained that statewide health sciences mandate now for decades, and we're interested in seeing it grow because we know the needs there. So we are looking at it from an infrastructure standpoint. We are looking at it from a capacity standpoint of how many students can we take on. We're looking at it from a geographic standpoint. We have, of course, our main campus in Pocatello. We're in Idaho Falls. We're in Twin Falls. We have our health science campus in Meridian for Treasure Valley. We're partnering with hospitals and clinics all across the state, all to make sure that the programs that we have, we can grow and we can continue to meet those needs as our population increases. And where it makes sense, we'll partner with our sister institutions. They'll jump in and do very similar programs in order to help meet those needs.
Okay, thank you for all of that. When you talk about capacity, I have to me, okay, we need nurses, right? Like somebody reminded me this morning, they're like, look, man, you have needs and you have wants. And I'm like, okay, we need nurses, right? Like these are some really strict needs. And the question becomes, okay, why don't we have more nurses? And, if you talk to the hospital system or the medical association, they're like, well, nurses are very much in demand. I'm like, great, whatever, charge me more, just to pay them whatever they want. Just get the nurses here. And that's, you can go to a point. And I obviously say that in a flippant manner because I'm not the one cutting the check, right?
Sure.
But they're like, look, we can only pay so much for these types of things before it becomes like ludicrous. Another piece of the answer is we need to grow our own so that we have an overabundance of nurses that are from Idaho or went to Idaho for nursing school and they want to stay here, right? Because we can either attract them into the area or we can just make them like spilling out of like an artesian well. Like they're coming out everywhere. Like everybody's a nurse, right? My question to you is specifically, are we over capacity at, for instance, the campuses that are under ISU? Are we over capacity for people that wanted to get in? Like, are we turning people away? Is there not enough interest in these programs so that we're actually like leaving seats open? Or is it some combination of both? Like some places you have too many people and some places you have too few? Or is it that you have the demand, you have the capacity, but the students themselves may not be a good enough fit because as much as we want everybody to achieve their dreams, there's some, like you have capacity. It's like, listen, you got to take this test. And if you don't score high enough on this aptitude test, like we really can't let you in because you have to keep integrity within your system.
So it is the only way that I know to answer that, Matt. I love analogies, especially when I'm teaching. So forgive me, the professor
hit me with it.
in me is going to jump out, but we want to build homes in this state. We have plenty of land. Why don't we build an unlimited number of homes?
I mean, I could think of a number of reasons, either supply or demand.
That's exactly right. So we have plenty of land. The problem is not land. The problem the problem is really additional variables that are going into play, supply and demand, that are really constricting at different points along the pathway. So you mentioned a few. One, you have to find students who are interested in going into that career. They have to have an interest. Number two, they have to have an aptitude to be able to go in, especially when it comes to the sciences. They have to come to our programs with that aptitude. And then we have to have the curriculum, the instructors to be able to teach it. And another constricting point that not very many people realize are nursing instructors. There is such a huge need for nursing practitioners out in the hospitals, the clinics, that many schools struggle to get them away to come in and to be teachers. So oftentimes our capacity is driven by how many instructors we can hire, how many of them we can pry from the private sector to come in and say, hey, why don't you teach instead of practice? So then we get the right students, we get the right number of students, we get the aptitude of the students ready to go, we get the number of instructors that we need. Now we get them into the curriculum and get them taking classes. We need to do it in an affordable way. We need to do it in a way that the students can be able to succeed and complete their programs. And then depending on the health science programs, depending on the nursing programs, that might require clinicals. Well, that's another constricting point because that's outside of the public institution. Those are in the clinics and in the hospitals, and we need them as partners to work with us to be able so that we can place those nursing students out so that we can place these health students out into these programs to get clinical. So all along the way, there are constricting points, just like if we were to say we want to build more homes. Well, we have land, great. We're going to build more homes. Well, again, it's not as easy as that. We need to think about supply and demand in different steps along the way. So oftentimes it's really identifying. We might have the will to teach more students. It's whether or not we have the instructors. It's whether or not we have the aptitude, the interest of students to be able to come in. Now, when it comes to a nursing program, for example, usually getting students in is not a problem. Students know that there are jobs out there. Students know that they're most likely going to have a job before they even finish. So getting students in, and we do a great job on the public K through 12 side. Their aptitude is there. We're getting smart students in.
Okay, great.
We're getting a great number of students in. Are we getting enough instructors in to increase the cohort size? Do we have the equipment, the classrooms? The other constricting point, and we know this because we just unveiled and cut the ribbon on a brand new simulation lab on our Pocatello campus. The nursing students need to learn in an environment that matches what they're going to get in a modern day hospital. We can't be teaching them in labs, in classrooms and experience that are 20 years old. So when they graduate, they go into a hospital and they aren't going to know how to use the equipment. They aren't going to recognize anything. So we need to make sure that our teaching and learning environment is up to date. Well, those are resources, and that is capital. Now, oftentimes we can get public-private partnerships to be able to help with that, but that's another constricting point too. So what I tell people is there is a will, but all along the way, we have to think about where those constricting points are, and it's not like they're unsolvable. We just have to pay attention to them, recognize that they exist, and say, okay, we're going to solve that. We're going to go after that. How do we get more instructors? How do we attract more nurses out of the private sector in to want to teach? How do we solve the resource and the capital needs that we have to have, the classrooms and the equipment to be able to teach modern curriculum? How do we make sure that when the students, as part of their practicum experience, as part of their clinical experience, are able to get out into clinics and hospitals and they have a positive and a good experience? So when they graduate, they will have had real world experience. So you have to think about those variables, those constricting points all along the way. And the bottom line is you just solve for them. Now, Idaho State University, we've been solving for those problems for decades. And again, I'm not saying that we can do in all programs, we can do it by ourselves, because we need help and we look to our sister institutions. But with the experience that we have, the decades that we've been doing this, we know where those constricting points are. And frankly, we know how to solve them. We just sometimes need the resources to be able to do that. And we need the support to be able to address those needs.
Okay. Again, so multifaceted, the problem. And as you're talking about all these different types of things, it reminds me, I went to Power Academy with Idaho Power recently. And again, I always love learning. So they're like, hey, do you want to come to this full day thing? We're going to, I was like, yeah, man, like, send me, get on the bus and you sit in the back of the bus and I eat my beef jerky and learn a bunch of different things. And it's a great time. But one of the problems that Idaho Power struggles with is they're like, look, we need reliability, we need safety, and we need price. Those are the three things. If you want more reliability, you got to take down the price and you're going to pay more. If you want clean energy, that's great. You can turn up the clean energy. Reliability is going to drop, right? Like you have all of these levers that just go back and forth. And they're like, now look, could we put all of these, if you had a scale of 1 to 10, say you had reliability, clean, and then price, we could put all of these at try to get all of these up at a 10. But what's going to happen is it's going to ultimately cost a dump truck of money. Yeah. Like if you never want let's say one blackout is intolerable. Okay, fine. We can make sure you never have a blackout. Your electrical bill is going to be 10x, right? And it sounds like that you guys struggle with the same thing. The argument, for like, oh, let private institutions take over these things, and I'm not saying there's not a role for private institutions in this area and others, but the problem that you're up against is, look, could you get nursing instructors if you gave them $200,000 a year? Hell yeah. Like we get nursing instructors lining up. Okay, great. But that chips away at your other stated goal of making this affordable and attainable.
That's exactly right. It is access.
Right.
It's access.
Now you have all the seats, you have the best instructors. Only 50% of the people can afford it. Okay, hang on. It was like, and you just start moving all these levers, and it's this dance of this dynamic, this problem that you're kind of trying to unwrap.
Well, it's really a level. Yeah. It's a balancing act because, again, I'm very supportive of the private institutions and what they do, but they are not driven by access like a public institution is. That's our mission. Almost 89% of Idaho State University students are from Idaho. We get access. That's what we do. We are designed to meet the needs of this state, to take residents in this state, get them in to programs and get them out into the workforce, into the economy, ways that they benefit society. Private institutions, they have the luxury of frankly determining whatever they want their mission to be. And that could be great programs, that could be quality. It's not necessarily affordability. Sometimes it is, but oftentimes it's not, or sometimes it's not. We see these needs, therefore we're going to develop and go towards these programs.
Or if I may just add a quick, it may be all of those things. It may also be aptitude. Sure. Which is like, hey man, yeah, like I'll make it affordable. I'll make it free. We'll get all these grants. We'll get all this endowment, but you better be the 99.9 percentile to get in here, which again flies in the face of your mission.
And we have frankly seen in this country, we've seen the challenge related to privates or for-profits that have gone in to doing education programs with the same philosophy that you just described. And who are the losers? The losers end up being the students. They come out with enormous debt. The curriculum might not be the best. They're not the best trained. They're not the best prepared. So as a public institution, we're particularly attuned to all of those things. Access, price, quality, curriculum, placement, meeting the needs of the communities that we serve. That's how I see the role that Idaho State University plays as a public institution. So we need to be on our game with all of those things and making sure that we can do them in the most efficient and effective way possible. When again, a private institution they might not be looking and it might not be motivated by those same things. And we're concerned about numbers, and we're concerned about cost, and we want to, again, be as efficient as we can. But boy, I take it really, really seriously when I hear we need more nurses, when we need more, need more doctors in the state, when we need more nurse anesthetists, for example. Good story here. We got word and saw, just because of our experience, that there was an anesthetist shortage in the state. And clinics were struggling. And we had a clinic, a well-known clinic in Treasure Valley, who came to us because of our background and experience in health sciences. And they said, listen, we have anesthetists who are willing to be instructors. We are willing to help you. We're willing to help you with some of the capital, some of the expense. We just can't teach, and we don't have the accreditation to graduate more anesthetists. So they came to us because we can, and we partnered together. And we developed the curriculum. We worked with accreditation. We worked with the clinics. They provided some of their anesthetists became instructors for us. And just this fall, we launched a brand new nurse anesthetist program. We had 3 times as many applicants as what we were able to accept. So what does that tell us? There's an extreme need, and there's interest. So now we're going to continue to grow that program. So there are going to be ways. We're not going to sit back and say, hey, we'll only do it if we get paid. No, we're going to find a way to do it. If that's a public-private partnership, we're going to do it. If that's seeking help from the state legislature, we're going to do it. If that's philanthropy, we're going to do it. I am absolutely convinced that one of the things that sets public education apart from private education is, as a public education institution, we know what our mission is. We're going to figure it out, and we're going to do it. And if that's grassroots, if that's if that's the Idaho way of pull our boots on, buy our straps, and just figure it out, get down and get dirty and go to work, we are going to do that.
Dude, I'm getting fired up. I want to start doing some push-ups here. My gosh. This kind of articulation and value proposition is one that is not, it's not present frequently. It's not articulated. It's not explained. There's a problem with understanding what happens in universities. There really is. And by the way, I went into my college experience as a math major. I love math. Nobody ever argues with math. It's like, okay, you gotta get better at math, right? For what? I don't know, whatever, but we're going to get better at math. And I switched to a liberal art because I switched to rhetoric after I, learned how to write, and I really fell in love with it. I wanted to be an attorney. And, so I had firsthand experience with liberal art where there was always this question about, like, wait, what the hell are you doing? Right? That was like the number one question at graduation. Like, everybody's graduating with a degree in rhetoric. What does that even mean? Right?
You are talking to a political scientist.
There we go. My guy.
Totally get it. Yes.
But so I understand when people criticize, hey, look, we are graduating people. We're spending all this money on universities. We're spending all this money on education, and we don't even know what these students are learning. But they and I'm guilty of this at times too, hyper focusing on one thing that maybe you don't necessarily understand, because let's not Mickey Mouse around. I would not be sitting here unless I had a degree in rhetoric, because I have a capacity to communicate that some people say is relevant and important. Okay. So, but again, we fall into this trap of, hey, there might be this one basket weaving course, right, that we don't like. Therefore, we have to defund the entire, like, the baby's going out with the bathwater. It's like, do you like material sciences? Are you a fan of trying to study fusion instead of fission? Like, does anybody want to figure out better ways to turn a nuclear, critical cycle for energy? Like, these are other things that are happening. And it's just not really being talked about. And the disconnect I think that people have with, okay, things are so expensive when I go to the hospital. Why is that? Well, because, at least part of it is lack of capacity to engage people. So you have to increase compensation, right? Okay, well, it's going to cost more to hire people. We don't have enough of these people. You have to wait a long time. Okay, great. Let's keep working it back. Okay, why don't we have these people? Well, they're not falling from the sky. Why aren't they falling from the sky? Well, because we need these educational institutions to educate them. So you have the person saying, defund all higher education, and at the same time waiting 4 months to go see a dermatologist.
Well,
and it's like, you got to connect the two at least a little bit. That's not to say any system is perfect, but good Lord, the value of higher education, especially in the medical field in Idaho right now, is so profound and so important.
No, I absolutely agree. But I think as a higher education administrator, knowing the history of higher education in this country, we have to recognize and know that we got caught off guard. We've been doing what we do for a long, long time. And we have been doing it well. Higher education institutions have been hubs of innovation. They've been hubs of creativity, hubs where many of the inventions, many of the things that we're enjoying now, started with research on higher education campuses. The foundation of a liberal arts degree and how to think and how to communicate, creativity, the arts. The challenge is that I firmly believe that for decades we got so caught up into meeting our missions, we actually stopped talking about our missions. We stopped defending our missions. We stopped really sharing and enlightening a public to say, this is what we do, because we just did it. And over time, questions just started creeping in. Well, why are they there? What are they doing? Why are taxpayer dollars going there? Why there and not over there? And we stopped promoting ourselves and promoting our contributions to society, to economic development, to public good. And, that's changing now. And I think as public institutions, we're talking more about that now. We're talking about our contributions to an economy. We're talking, I say this word, my team hears me use this word so many times. We have to talk about impact. What is our impact? What's our impact on the economy? What's our impact on the innovation cycle? What's our impact to creative works? What's our impact to an educated workforce? What is our impact? We need to be talking about that more. And so as much as, at times I'm really hurt by some of the fundamental questions that are being asked, like, is higher education worth it? And my answer is, well, yeah. I have to take a step back and say, okay, we then have to explain it, and we have to talk about it, and we have to remind the populace, remind our government leaders just where this country came because of a public higher education system, the good that has come because of it, and why we need it going into the future. It's just critically important. And so I own that. I have fellow colleagues, fellow administrators who own that too. And so I'm committed to shouting it from the rooftops now.
I appreciate all of that, but I think you are also taking an undue burden onto yourself in not acknowledging that I think there are some with the exponential increase in tuition in some institutions and some, systems. When my first year at Cal, it was $4,000. Yeah. At the end, 4 years later, I didn't take 10 years. 4 years later, it was $8,000. So we doubled in 4 years. Okay. And I have family members that have gone to University of San Francisco, private institution. Regardless of what you're studying, you're looking at like $75,000 a year. And I have family members that studied liberal arts in that school. Yeah. And I'm sitting here having studied liberal arts, looking at this saying, like, what are you learning that's worth $300,000? And that's part of, like, I have made public universities answer that question when it wasn't their fault.
Yeah.
I've looked at them and been like, what are you doing for like, and so my point is like nationally, that's a problem where it's like you get thrown into the same ship as the $300,000.
And that's the challenge is that I can take responsibility, but sometimes there are things I shouldn't be responsible for.
Right. You're not on the hook for that.
And there are states who charge an inordinate amount for public higher education. And I know that one of the challenges that people have with higher education is students graduating with huge debt loads. You know, I understand that. I've had 5 of my kids have all gone through higher education. Some it was 4-year degrees. Some have done graduate degrees. Some have done tech college. All have cost a different amount. Sure. You know, as a father, I don't want them to go in to a significant amount of debt. Thankfully, though, we lived in a state and in states where the cost of public education was low enough, where that debt was very, very low, where they're coming out with the jobs. So I agree. There are things that I just shouldn't own. I still take it personally, but there are things that I shouldn't own. But what I should do is talk about the value of higher education in the state of Idaho, how our debt load for students in the state of Idaho is very, very low compared to many of the other states in this country, that students are graduating with certificates, with associates, with bachelor's, with master's degrees, with very, very little debt. Most of the time on the undergraduate degrees with no debt at all. Because we're able to scholarship, we're able to provide as much support as we can. We're a streamlined and extremely efficient in what we do. So we have to be able to tell that story. But that takes support. And we do need our public officials to recognize the value of the education, as cheap as we say we are, and we are, as inexpensive as we are. If we want to stay that way, it's going to take continued investment by this state. Costs are growing for us just like in any industry itself. And I'm all for being efficient and cutting fat where we can cut to fat, but sooner or later, if the cuts continue to go, you're going to cut bone. And then you have to ask yourself, okay, what bone is getting cut? And how is it going to impact the mission that you have for impact, for economic development, for an educated workforce. So the other thing
access. You could shift the cost to the students, you're going to reduce access.
That's exactly right. And that's the last thing that we want to do is shift the cost to our students. And because, again, I take that public higher education mission very, very seriously. And when I say access in all capital letters because it's that important.
Yeah. Listen. I know today's a working day. You moved out, you traveled out here, you got an event to go to. We've talked about, just this one thing. We're not going to be able to talk about everything in higher education in one conversation. I don't want to keep you too long today. Do you have anything you want to hit here at the end?
Sure. There are a number of things. I'm so proud of this institution. I'm proud of Idaho State University, extremely proud of what we do. We are Idaho's nuclear institution. We know that is going to become more and more important, energy production. And Idaho State University is poised to be the leader with Idaho National Laboratory right next to us. We are just poised to be able to contribute there. The relationships that we have on the health science side with the Idaho College of Osteopathic Medicine on our campus in Meridian, right there, partnering with us, sharing labs, teaching together is going to help the doctor shortage that we have. And there could be additional opportunities for that relationship to even grow more close in order to meet the public health needs of our state. We're up in enrollments. This is the 4th fall semester, Matt, in a row that Idaho State University is up. We're up 5.3%. We Students are choosing to come to Idaho State. They're choosing as traditional students to come straight out of high school. They're choosing as non-traditional students to come back to get a certificate, to get a degree, to change a job, to be able to help their families grow. The number of first-generation students at our institution is growing too. We are solving problems in this state. I appreciate our state leaders. I very, very much appreciate the challenges that they face. I acknowledge those challenges. And my response to that is Idaho State University wants to be a solution.
God bless you, sir. I make it a point to not ask anything from people, but I would love to help showcase some of those programs you talked about. I have a American nuclear series that it comes out every single Monday with either different nuclear experts, or I have kind of like an in-house expert that, goes to DC all the time, and he happens to live like 10 minutes away. But helping people understand that there is a path forward for them in the nuclear industry, be that somebody who's, more on the like technical certificate side with like a nuclear welder, all the way up to,
Absolutely.
like all of those things are offerings. And honestly, after talking to him, it's like, if I knew that nuclear welding was an option, or just getting into them, I'm like, wow, this is super interesting.
Well, and we have those This is what's amazing is that we have those programs at Idaho State. When people think of developing nuclear power, they will usually think of a nuclear engineer, someone who's developing nuclear power. What they don't think about is when we develop these small modular nuclear reactors, we need a workforce to run them.
Right.
We need techs. We need maintenance. We need controls. Idaho State University, our College of Technology, that's a community college in Southeast Idaho. We've been doing these programs for a number of years. We are probably the only institution in the Intermountain West and in the Northwest that's offering these programs. So as state governments look to invest in these nuclear reactors and this new way of generating power, we're coming to the table and saying, we're not just there with nuclear engineers, and we have PhDs. We have a nuclear reactor on our campus in Pocatello. We're there on the nuclear engineers, but we're developing the workforce to run these nuclear reactors. And we're filling a niche that no one else is. So I'd love to come back or have members of our team to come back and talk about this program. You can hear, I can get really excited about those programs too.
Oh, listen, I'm all in. I'll even come out. Like we're going to figure something out, because this is, not only is it important for people to understand what the work is you're doing, but it's important for young people to see that there's a place for them. There are fuels, there are advanced material sciences. You can go like straight nuclear engineer, that's fine. But there's this whole ecosystem around getting these things working and keeping them working, so that we can fuel the next wave of American innovation over the next 100 years and beyond.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you for coming out, sir. I really appreciate you. Let's do it again.
Thank you, Matt.